It's Monday night, and the vegans are taking over the airwaves of Space City, Houston, 90.1 FM on that dial. Dr. Crystal Heath, my name is Skyjack Morgan. We are here for Vegan World Radio. And before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone who donated during our fund drive. It's so reassuring, and really we're honored that anybody donates and tells us that they love Vegan World Radio, what we're doing here, and what everyone in the collective does for Vegan World Radio and Blue. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts that you keep this thing going. Doctor, did you go on a trip recently?
I went to Tuskegee University College of Veterinary Medicine to speak with the Feline Medicine Club, and I talked to them all about how I do spay-neuter and how I was able to pay off my debt and how access to care is what we need to promote as veterinarians, and how billion-dollar corporations get access to care for their animals in order to make a profit. And here we are out there trying to take care of other members of society, which are cats out there on the street. And yet we have to pay a lot more for their medical care. And I gave the example of how an H5N1 test for a dairy cow or a chicken will only cost a producer $2 or $4, and they're even often reimbursed for that cost. Yet if your cat was infected with H5N1 and you wanted to test them, that would cost the veterinarian $200. So that means you'll pay $400 or more. So I think that really opened their eyes up to how unfair it was and how we were prioritizing corporate interests over the interests of animals. So after I was done there, I was driving to Tampa to speak at the VegFest, and I stopped along the way at this famous regenerative farm along the way. I don't want to name names yet because I haven't done all my research yet, and it would be unfair for me to give a whole review of them when I really only stayed there one afternoon and then the morning. But I had quite an adventure while I was there, and I can tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, tell me.
So driving in the South, it was very different than other parts of the country where there's lots of farms, because in this particular area, think of between Alabama and Florida, it was very quiet. There were not a lot of birds. There were not a lot of other wildlife. I didn't see any deer. I only saw a few squirrels. And because this part of the country has been cultivated for a very long period of time. And the story of this particular farm is that it was started in the 1860s officially after the emancipation, but previously they had about 100 slaves. And then in 1866, those enslaved people became sharecroppers. And this particular county is about 60% black, 40% white. But when I showed up to this place, all the front-facing people were all white. And it was an eerie thing because I don't know whether this part of the country is used to seeing an unattended woman, but I walk into the general store area and I see all of the workers there, and it's literally like I am the only person there who's not a worker, who's not from there. Seems like their only patron. And they turn and look at me and give me a sneer and keep on
a sneer.
Talking. Yeah, it was weird. They were complaining about somebody who was calling repeatedly because they hadn't gotten their order. And I'm like, wow, that seems very unprofessional to be talking about that while in front of a customer.
You're not from around here is what that sneer is.
Yeah, and I wasn't dressed weird, I don't think, but whatever. I think I look like a pretty normal person, and I'm not tatted up or anything.
It's funny. I've lived in the South for so long, and there's parts of it that are small towny, man, and they act like that. Not everybody, of course, but there's a vibe in some of those small towns where They don't know you. You're an outsider. They don't think of you as a neighbor.
But it's weird to have this place where you're inviting the public to come, and it's almost like a tourist stop. And they
Yeah.
have these cabins at
Yeah.
this facility where people come and spend days there. But it
Hmm.
wasn't like Napa or hospitality, other places
Or
where people
Vegas.
come and stay. There, it wasn't very warm and welcoming. And so I walk around, look at their wares, and then I go up to the counter. I'm like, I actually have a reservation here. And they're like, oh, did you just make it? I don't think they were aware that somebody was staying there. So
Oh.
I was pretty much their only person staying the night there
And you're saying
and
on
on the
this
property.
regenerative farm. Yeah.
And the one woman, she's, oh, we're going to get you this. Calls her name. She's going to show you where your cabin is.
Mm.
And I like stand around, not sure where to stand, not sure whether to follow people or what. And then she's, yeah, follow me. I'm in the white truck. Follow my white truck with your car. And I start to follow her around the back, and she's, no, go out the front. I'm like, okay. And I have a big white truck that I'm driving too, like pretty much the same truck. And so I follow her a mile. We have to actually get on the highway, drive a mile, and then take this dirt road back to where my cabin was. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. There's no Wi-Fi. It's dark. And I'm there all alone, which is fantastic. I love an adventure.
Yeah.
But she shows me around like the cabin, and there's no like, where are you from? What brings you here?
No small talk.
None
But
of
you don't
that.
like small talk anyway.
I don't, but it was weird. Like that's just
You don't like small
something.
talk, but when someone doesn't do it, you're like, you're weird.
This isn't like it's I like small talk to a point.
Mm.
Like that would be normal, showing like a welcoming hospitality, and we could quickly relay very important information like why I was there and where I'm from, which I think would be of interest. When people talk about, hey, it's nice weather we're having, that's pointless small talk.
But getting the
Factual
background
information
of a
of like,
person.
where are you from? What do you do? That's good information, I think. And it was actually interesting because where I live, somebody actually just made a TikTok about how it's very inappropriate to ask what somebody does for a living, but it's very vital now for networking. And this one person was grateful that an out-of-towner was there and didn't know that, hey, we in this demographic, this age group, we don't ask people what they do. And so this woman, who is a Southern woman actually, comes in and says, hey, Anna, what do you do? And it turns out the person who this TikTok was about actually needed somebody who worked for that company in that field to connect with. And so this naive woman coming in not knowing that, hey, we don't talk about what we do, like actually helps facilitate a very important connection. And I'm like, I would love to be that person's like wingman, would just naively come up and ask people, what do you do, just to help foster some connections.
Well, people would
with
have to
people.
go to parties, though. That's, I think, what's also happening. People aren't going to places where they network, right? So you don't interact like that anymore. You used to go to a party and everyone would say, so what do you do? Oh, meet so-and-so, veterinarian, the chiropractor, whatever. And you would, that's how you would introduce people. But I guess that's gone away because we're not as
Now it's
social.
just nonstop conferences, I feel like.
Yes, yes.
That's where people connect now.
Yes,
we go to
it's
conferences, we go to galas, we go to balls.
That's
what
horrible.
we do.
No more dinner parties, no more cocktail hour. I miss cocktail hour and dinner parties, to be honest. I'd rather
Well, then
do
you
that
have
than
to
that.
throw them. That's what.
I would, but it's so hard to get. This is the other part, is that people are so far away. And as a vegan, I don't always feel comfortable inviting a bunch of different people to a place. And I just, it's hard because somebody who's an animal eater, they show up at a party and they feel isolated because everyone else is vegan or vice versa. So
Really?
it's hard. Yeah, for sure. I threw a get together with We the Free where I showed videos of, there were videos about outreaching to kids, vegan outreach for children. and we were talking about what are the best practices and stuff when this happens, and everybody
Do
but
not groom children like some
yeah.
groups do.
No,
But,
exactly. Dr. Melanie Joy has a video that she recorded, and they used that for We the Free. And then my friend had a puppet show that he made called Kindness Town on YouTube. So we showed both, and we talked about, okay, which one might work better, whatever. It was just a fun little salon. We've talked about it before. And everyone but one was a vegan. And I felt later, I'm like, was everything cool? Did anybody ask you? No, everyone just assumed he was vegan, so he was cool. But it's a concern. It's a concern. And I think it's more difficult to throw those parties these days. Plus, no one wants to
Interesting.
show up to anything. Everyone's on playing video games. They make friends on video games. Like, people don't even meet their best friends in the world. They never see each other in person because they only know each other through the computer. How are you
Yeah.
going to ask
Well,
somebody what they
anyway,
do?
back to the famous regenerative farm that I
Yeah,
was
tell me
at
about it.
and went to, that all the podcast bros talk about as this is the way to raise animals and why it's so
Yeah,
important.
this is the way.
So I ended up driving around the farm, and they're very much, hey, go wherever, see everything. If you
Mm,
open a gate, close it behind you. That's the vibe. So I'm like,
that's
I'm going
nice.
to explore. I came across some pigs in a pen, and one pig was limping severely. One pig was coughing, but it was nice. They were on dirt
Mm,
and they had trees, and it was much better than the pig places that I've seen where they're all on these hard floors with slats and they're
yeah.
miserable, and I still saw pigs fighting with each other a little bit, but not the obsessive stereotypic belly
Mm,
nosing where they're constantly like bumping noses against another pig's belly nonstop, the
mm.
nonstop fighting and aggression. This was much more peaceful. But there were a coughing pig, a lame pig was what I saw. So I was sitting there watching the pigs and also videoing, and up comes the patriarch, the famous patriarch of the facility. And
Mm.
he says, do you need any help? And I'm like, no, I'm just watching the pigs. He's okay then. And let me know if you need anything or something nice like that. I drove down the street, seeing if I can go out on the road. It was a dead end. So I turned around. I see him come up again and you lost? And I'm like, no, I just need to go out on the road. And I thought I could go that way, but I guess I couldn't. And he's like, do you need any help? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And I probably should have talked to him some more, but I didn't know for
Yeah,
sure if that guy was
that was Southern
whatever. And
hospitality.
it
Hey, you
was,
need anything?
yeah,
Y'all okay?
seem nice. That's
Yeah.
like the first pleasant interaction that I've had at this place.
Mm.
But it was late at night. I was tired. I actually drove to the grocery store 11 miles to actually get girl dinner. They have a restaurant there, which has all their meat, but the menu was, I didn't see any plant-based protein, animal-free protein there, which is
Mm.
weird because if you think a regenerative farm, you'd have crops and other
But they're
things that you're
crops for
growing other
animals.
than.
Right.
No, I thought they had other crops that they were growing. They grow, but it sounds like now it's mostly they're growing grass for the cows to graze on. And they don't
Mm-hmm.
really have a whole lot of other crops, though I saw like some greenhouse looking things.
Sure.
So
Do they have chickens
maybe,
at this farm?
yeah, they have chickens, pigs, cows, and they have bunnies. And I saw the bunny cages, which is sad. They say pasture raised rabbit, but they're in cages out in a field. I took some pictures of that. The next morning, wake up early, drive around, see what's what. And I know there's this one big complex, and the sign says, we've moved 10 years ago, and it points in the direction of the general store where I first entered in. But I'm like, it's not exactly saying no trespassing. So I
Okay.
drive in, and it's a big major complex, and this is where the slaughterhouse is. And I immediately
Oh.
notice guys in trucks like looking at me, talking to each other, and I park and I'm charging my camera. And very quickly, the patriarch comes up and parks next to me. And I get out of my truck and he's
The
like,
guy.
hi, yeah, same guy. I'm so and so. I'm like, hi, I'm Crystal. He's like, I thought you were lost last night. And I'm like, no, I always look. Or he said, you looked lost last night. I'm like, I always look lost. That's fine. And I'm like, am I okay to walk around here? I don't want to break any rules. And this is a place of business, so I
Hmm.
don't want you to get hurt. We're running a business here. And I'm like, I totally get it. All your stuff says we can walk around, but I don't want to do anything I'm not supposed to.
It's like
He's
a
like, yeah,
winery. It's still an industrial facility, right?
yeah, especially now you have animals that are being slaughtered and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I didn't get to see the slaughter, but I've talked to other people who know him and are like, they would totally let you see the slaughter. Just plan ahead of time. And I had less than a day. Makes
Mm.
sense. So he actually says, I can give you a ride and a tour in my Jeep. And I'm like, that's great. So I hop in his Jeep and we talk and he gives me a tour of the place and I take videos and I explained to him, like, I'm a veterinarian. I've been investigating avian influenza. He's, oh, we were worried about avian influenza here. We had some chickens that we sent to the state lab for testing. He didn't say that they had died or anything, but I
Mm.
presume that's the case.
They didn't come
And
back
they
from the lab.
tested presumptive positive for high path avian influenza. But then when they did further testing, they realized they hadn't died of that. They were like they had antibodies to high path avian influenza. Like they had recovered from it.
Oh,
And so he didn't need to depopulate or anything. And he had the hypothesis that when wild birds fly overhead and poop in his fields, since they're regenerative stuff.
mm.
And the thing about this particular area, it has all the fields around have this red dirt. It looks like the surface of Mars, which it's
Mm.
pretty much devoid of any organic material. But this farm, because it's regenerative, and he talked about he takes the rendered parts, like the parts that you normally render, throw away, and he puts them all in the field, post
Compost
and
them.
help make the soil better. And the cow poop and all of the poop helps add more organic material. And he thinks because the soil is now so rich with all of these things, it inactivates the virus a little bit. I
What?
don't think that's his hypothesis. I don't think
What the
that's
heck?
necessarily true. I think and I told them my experience of sanctuaries who get high path avian influenza. They've been able to recover and only lose a few birds because
Mm.
these birds aren't kept in a big building with tens of
Tons of
thousands of other
genetically
birds in this
similar.
stressed environment. And they treat them more individually so they're able to survive. But
Right.
I thought that was interesting. And I asked, how's business going?
Uh,
And he said, I'm making a profit, but it's not, my accountants say my return on investment is quite low for this type of business. But he is like the major employer in this county. And it used to be one of the poorest counties in the country. And now
it's
it's
interesting.
not.
These farms, how much people expect on return on their investment. The ROI, people always expect like I spend a penny, I make a dollar. And that's just not how it used to be. It used to be you toiled, you worked, you hopefully supported a few paychecks, a few salaries, and you made your way. You put your kids through college, you did okay to do. It's so funny. My accountants are saying I should be making more money. Yeah, I guess everyone's always going to push you to cut more corners and make it less safe and do all sorts
Yeah, and
go
that's how we
faster.
get industrial
That's
animal
right.
agriculture.
Yeah.
And I talked a bit about what his neighbors think of him,
Yeah.
and he's got quite the adversarial relationship with big ag and industrial agriculture. His
Mm.
cousin next door said died angry at him for his criticism. And when you talk to him, it's all about how we talked about the cost, but he goes into what they're doing industrial farming, they're not considering the cost to the environment, how much water. And he's talked about the water that they're sucking up the ground. They're not paying for that. They're not
Right.
paying for the environmental contamination that they're causing. It's like
That's
very
true.
much things that we would say. So it's a hard
Uh,
situation for me to be in because I want to, on one hand, say even regenerative farming isn't good. It's when it involves animal-based protein. But I
yes.
also view this guy as an ally against the billion
Big ag.
dollar multinational corporations who are now, they are like Purdue, other companies are pretending that they are this guy and selling their products as humane or regenerative and all of this stuff when
Of
they're
course they are.
not. You're just paying money to these billion-dollar corporations when
Isn't
you
that always the
think you're
case though,
buying them.
Crystal? Like when I used to know Joel Saladin over in Virginia
Hmm.
and godfather of regenerative farming, and he always said the same thing. Similar, yeah. I had similar
Yeah.
feelings. It's you're still gonna slit all these pigs' throats. I've just watched you murder a chicken. You've got the skins of squirrels tacked up on the side of your barn. I'm not a supporter, but
Yeah.
as far as it's like it just puts us
Some
in this
people,
horrible.
like one book that I mentioned in, that author says, if you're going to buy animal meat anyway, you might as well get it from a farm. I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to
Yeah.
let you, if that's your conclusion, fine. But like, it's, you can't do this efficiently.
No, you
And
can't.
we talked a little bit about the predator problem on his facility. And I mentioned how quiet it was, how very few wildlife is in this facility. So because of the enslaved people who cleared this area, and there's so much hunting in this area too. I went to the
Mm.
grocery store and they have hunting equipment there.
Yeah.
So much hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to have the deer that are prevalent in other parts of the country, the wolves, the coyotes, the bears that are in Florida. That's just not in this area. So it's easier to play regenerative farming here
Yeah.
because you don't have to fight all of the other
Nature.
animals.
Anywhere you
Exactly.
go, if I'm in Nebraska and I see those fields of corn and everything, there's no animals out there. People always talk about crop deaths and everything, but I've spent time in those fields and they've been tilled for so long, nobody's moving in. There's no new animals moving in. Maybe they killed a bunch of animals that were there 100 years ago, but that's not happening
Yeah,
every
I
time
will
that.
say, having investigated California quite a bit, there's a lot of ground squirrels there, even in the croplands. They also have some rare birds who come in and fly and make nests in the fields. And then the producers can't till those fields because, oh, those rare birds have moved in.
But
Because, yeah.
I'm talking about like the Manosphere podcast, this commonly held belief that crop deaths and a vegan diet far outweigh the deaths of a carnivore diet or omnivore
Yeah.
diet, and
I
it's
just
just totally
wouldn't
untrue.
say that there's no animal life in those crops because I think there is, depending on what area of the country that you are
Very
in.
little is what I'm saying. Like when
I
I
think
went
in
out, I've seen
California
some.
there's a lot
Maybe,
of
but in California,
animals.
like you said, when there's rare birds, they have to stop working, so it's a little bit different. When I'm out in
Yeah.
the fields of
Well,
Ohio
but
or
not even not okay, so here's
Iowa,
another. I grew up in California and I've I've plowed fields and I killed a lot of mice in those fields. I remember the carnage. So I personally have experienced that. So I can't say that it doesn't exist, but you're going to kill a lot more when you're plowing those fields to feed other animals
yeah, the
and
100
not
billion animals.
plowing those fields to feed yourself. So,
True. All right. So what happened at VegFest? Then you left there and you went
um,
to VegFest, right?
yeah, so Veg Fest was great. I gave my talk. I love these Veg Fests, especially when they're in a park. We're just in a park in a big city where random people just come in.
Mm.
And I spoke to people who weren't even vegan. My talk was about, I riffed off of my Tuskegee talk because I figured people care about the cost of veterinary care. And so I wanted to
Sure.
go into all of that, access to care, why it's so important, and then talk about these billionaire families, the Mars family, the Cargill family, who are committing crimes against animals and not being held accountable. And meanwhile, their veterinary care is subsidized heavily, which isn't fair. We also
Yeah.
heard from Tim Kaufman of Fat Man Rants, and went on about his addiction to opioids and how he
Mm.
got over that and how he's ran marathons and did the Ironman
Yeah.
and while on a plant-based diet, fantastic stuff. I met Christina Sherian, who's an MD, and she talked about hey, you can be healthy on an animal-free diet, turns out, which is great. It's always great to have another doctor, not just Neil Barnard, not just Michael Greger. We're
Yeah, I was
talking
gonna say
about
Gregor.
women talking about this. And Jacinda Shapiro, who's a nurse, and she talks about where you get your protein, which was actually really, she's an anti-supplement person. And
Mhm.
I am very pro supplement person,
Yeah.
but some of the things she said, I'm like, ooh, that kind of hits home for me a little bit. Maybe I'm gonna weed myself off some of my supplements and
Why?
wean
What do you
myself
mean?
off my protein powder
What stuck
just
out? Because like,
because.
no, I mean, I'm like, I was just conditioned not to want to take pills. I just don't like taking a bunch of supplements. As I get older, I'm taking a vegan omega-3 and a multivitamin. That's what I do now. But all the supplements, like, I just
I
can't
would
get behind it.
I talked to Christina or Dr. Sherian in depth over dinner the night before about iron and how many people she's tested who have a low ferritin. And
Mm,
this is a women thing. It's you don't have to worry
yes.
about men, but so many women. And I worry, is this why we're not like toppling the patriarchy is because we're all
Iron
iron
deficient.
deficient.
It's so funny you
And
say that.
if
When I worked in Vegas, I had so many, I had 400, I had 500 employees, 400 of whom were women, and a high number of them were anemic and had to have a note from the doctor to
yes.
allow them to eat inside the casino outside of their breaks because of their anemia. And it was like always nuts or some kind of red fruit. And that's what I learned. Like women should be eating more red fruit because of the iron.
Women need to be taking iron supplements. And she even talked to her doctor about it. And a male doctor didn't want to prescribe her iron supplements because they're worried about constipation.
Why would you use
No, I'm
prescription for a
telling,
supplement?
I don't understand that. But yeah, it's something you can take,
Yeah.
but it's not when a doctor prescribes it. I don't know, maybe you can get a tax write off or whatever.
Liquidation or
I don't know.
something. Okay.
But yeah, no, everybody should get their ferritin levels checked and take an iron supplement. And but she also okay, so Jacinda, who's anti-supplement, did
Hmm.
say B12 you need and vitamin D3 is
Which are
something you
both
also
in
need. And
of
those aren't actually vitamins.
what do you mean they're
Um,
not vitamins?
they're not, it was just, they're called vitamins, but they're actually, D3 is a hormone and B12, I should know what it is, but it's not a vitamin. It's more like a
B12's
mineral sort
it's
of
like
thing. Well, but it's not a mineral.
it's
Yeah,
like a
it's a,
bacterial colony. B12 is
I should
bacteria.
look this up. I should
It's
know this, but
bacteria in the
it's not
presence
a,
of cobalt creating B12. I don't know how
mm,
it's not a
mm,
vitamin, but sure. But both of those are in a daily multivitamin. So I feel like you get it. If you're taking a multi, you get
mm.
everything you need. And multis are cheap. They're not like when I was a kid. Vitamins used to be expensive, and now it's like it's not so
Well, I
expensive.
will say I have taken vitamin D3 as a separate high dose thing.
Yeah.
And still, when I get my D3 checked, it's been low and I needed to take a super dose. So get that checked regularly. Everybody, whether you eat animals or not, this is just a common problem, especially women. We need to get strong and have energy to fight the patriarchy.
To fight the
So,
patriarchy.
like, get your ferritin checked, take
And
your iron. If you're
D3 we
feeling
also
lethargic,
synthesize. Go outside and get some sun as well. We
yes,
synthesize
but
it.
still, that's not enough, especially
Yeah.
if you live below, like here in Houston, Texas, in theory, good. But also, if you don't want wrinkles, stay out of the sun. And that's what I stay out of the
Well, you
sun
can
because I don't want to
synthesize it
get
on
all
just on your
wrinkly.
arms. How about that? I cover the
I
face, but
don't,
I let the arms out.
I don't think that's enough. I
Well,
actually think like you
yes.
need like full body sun exposure
As a man, I just
in
feel
order
like
to
I'm
get.
looking more distinguished the more wrinkles come. So I think that I'm all
Well,
right.
that's
But
good for you. Patriarchy again wins.
yes, finally, it's paying off. I,
Yeah,
I
let's see how much money you making off of that, huh? Like
nothing. I won't make any money off of. That's okay. I'll still be getting my D3. No, I take a
as
D3
a
and I
white
take
man,
yeah.
if you're not making money for the animals, what are you doing?
I'm
Why are you
trying.
wasting your privilege?
I'm not wasting my. I'm trying not to waste my
Okay.
privilege. You're absolutely right. I'm trying hard over here, but I'm with
So,
you on the B12 because even non-vegans have to take B12 because in a modern world we're not exposed to it. You have to get it.
and
Yeah.
if you are just joining the program, you are listening to Vegan World Radio here on Houston's own KPFT 90.1 FM and streaming at kpft.org online. And you should also probably still donate because we need your support. This is listener-supported radio after all. So kpft.org to donate, and please support the show. So
Yeah,
we
if you
can
do
combat
$100,
patriarchy.
they'll send you a Vegan World Radio
and-
T-shirt, which is my favorite T-shirt ever
Exactly.
made. Yeah, I love it. Did you hear about the monkeys escaping in the cars in the car accident?
Yep.
I mean,
Another
that's
monkey
pretty.
escape.
Another monkey escape, and they were off. It was all sorts of crazy reports. It got a little wild, but yet another monkey. Now, of course, a few weeks before, we did a whole episode about monkey escaping in South Carolina. All those monkey escapes that happened there, 30-something monkeys. This one had fewer monkeys escaping, but I wanted to play the report for you. Blue, are you ready to play that first clip for us?
Well, authorities are searching for 3 lab monkeys that escaped in Mississippi yesterday, and that was after a truck that was transporting them from Tulane University crashed. Sheriff's officials said that the truck's driver mistakenly told deputies at the scene that the primates were aggressive and carried several infectious diseases.
Based off of that information, they say they, quote, took the appropriate actions to destroy the rest of the monkeys. Tulane University later released a statement saying the primates were not infectious, and it says the monkeys belong to a third-party research organization. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park joins us now. So, Kathy, what is the latest on those 3 monkeys that are still on the loose? Do they pose any threat to the public?
Yeah, Vicki, this was certainly a wild escape, and believe it or not, it's still a developing story. And as of this afternoon, according to the Jasper County Sheriff's Office, 3 monkeys, as you mentioned, still on the loose, and an unknown number of escaped monkeys have been killed. Initially, though, officials reported that these primates were carrying diseases, including herpes and COVID. But then later on, in a statement from Tulane University where they were being housed, they said that the animals were not infectious, had no disease prior to transport. But regardless, these are lab monkeys, not in their natural habitat. They're roaming around right now, at least that's what we believe, and should not be approached by the public. If you do see them, obviously, you want to contact law enforcement right away.
Kathy, do we know who the monkeys belong to or even where they were headed?
Yeah, so that's still a big mystery right now. These animals, as far as we know, were just being housed at a research center in Tulane in Louisiana, but they do not belong to the university, but with another entity, and we don't know who that other entity is at this hour. It's unclear where they were headed, but we do know that Mississippi Highway Patrol, they are now investigating this accident that took place yesterday morning, guys.
Wow. All right, Kathy Park for us there. Kathy, thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated.
Spin on this drives me crazy. Like, we're talking about a car accident, and they're saying, like, it was a wild escape. It wasn't a wild escape. It wasn't like the monkeys were trying so hard plotting to escape. There was a car accident because we were exploiting them, and they were in the back of a vehicle, and the cages broke, and some got free, and immediately the news is, yes, they're dangerous. They've got COVID. They've got herpes. Look out. This is the rage. People were already talking about the apocalypse. People in the town in Jasper County, there's only 600 people who live there. They said it was looking like the apocalypse. Like, there were a bunch of people in lab coats running around in hazmat suits and stuff. Like, the people who lived there were frightened. And needlessly, these animals were harmless, and they were more afraid than anything else.
Yeah, it's so interesting how the media gets the public all riled up in this case. But meanwhile, don't worry, the milk is safe. The risk to the public is low. The eggs are safe. It's fine.
They want to
Not
calm you
1
down.
billion virus particles per milliliter of infected avian influenza infected milk.
Yeah.
But like a couple of monkeys escape from a car crash, and all of a sudden it's like we have to dramatize it and sensationalize it and all of
And I think
this.
sensationalize it, I think it's because we're not in danger. It's sensationalizing it because someone else has to pay for it. It's these monkeys that are going to have to pay. And when we start talking about how much pus is in milk and what is the acceptable amount of fecal material in a hamburger, when you start bringing that stuff up, they're like, oh, shut up. It's totally safe. You're allowed to eat a certain amount of fecal material after all. And I think it's because the people who have to pay for it are these giant corporations. And so they don't want you to get riled up about that. I think that if people knew how much poop they were really eating, I think there'd be torches and pitchforks at this point, but no one's allowed to talk.
Well, just eating that is one thing, but the fact that we spend $1.9 billion a year on salmonella infections just from people eating contaminated pork,
Yes.
that is it actually translates into people getting sick.
Yes.
And most of us have gotten sick at some point, either from eating vegetables contaminated with farmed animal manure, or actually eating meat that was contaminated and with Listeria, Campylobacter, Salmonella, all of these things. So it's not just a ew, gross for no reason. We're talking actual
Public health.
threat to our food security from these infectious diseases, but they're so careful not to talk about avian influenza in a sensational way for fear of there might be backlash like there was.
Right, exactly. And here we are, that we're not allowed to talk about those things, but there's almost like a gag order on this stuff. And every time they do talk about it, there's always the caveat, but don't worry, don't touch a dead bird don't ever touch one, but go ahead and eat one because it's perfectly safe. It's this crazy doublespeak like in 1984 that I can't believe more people aren't waking up to it and hearing this, especially when contrasted with this animal issue. So I wanted to bring up George Barnett, who works in that town as a pastor. And so people aren't going to challenge him when he tells about the day he picked up a hunting rifle and took aim at an escaped rhesus monkey in rural Mississippi. He said to the news, "As soon as I saw it, the only thing I thought was, what if this thing attacks one of those people that I grew up with or my children," Barnett said. This quote stood out to me in bold letters because what if this thing attacks one of those people? Like, as soon as I saw it, what if this thing? It's not an it. This is a living, breathing individual who just wants to live, but instead we devalue this animal by calling them it and then a thing. It reminds me of like in Superman, where Superman really cares about the kaiju. He doesn't want to kill the kaiju. And at the end, the kaiju's killed by the Justice Gang. And in the newspaper the next day, it says, Justice Gang kills thing. There's not even no one cares. Of course, he hit the monkey very easily, but did not kill the monkey. The experienced squirrel and deer hunter estimates the animal was 35 to 40 pounds. Generally, monkeys between 17 and 20 pounds, Moore said. But he thought this rhesus monkey was far bigger, of course. He's already telling big fish stories. And after he took 2 shots, the monkey dropped to the ground and took off, he said. But Barnett didn't chase it. Officials did end up finding the dead monkey. The monkey did die after escaping. They followed the trail of blood and lost the monkey still, so they used a drone with infrared to find the dying monkey, and then they retrieved the corpse. But Barnett was actually the second Mississippi resident to take the monkey business into their own hands. And the first person was Jessica Bond Ferguson, who opened fire after her 16-year-old saw a monkey outside their home near Heidelberg, Mississippi, killing the animal. And I have another little clip I'd love you to play, Blue.
No one is in custody. One of those monkeys that escaped a truck accident last week in Mississippi has been shot and killed early this morning. A homeowner said her 16-year-old son saw a monkey running in the yard. She grabbed her firearm, stepped outside, and shot the animal. She said she feared for her child's safety. The Mississippi Department of Wildlife took that monkey. Last week in the crash, 21 monkeys were killed. 3 of them escaped.
So 3 escaped, 2 are now dead. This one killed by Jessica Bond Ferguson, who said that I did what any mother would do to protect her children, she told the Associated Press. Here we are, another one saying that we are in this is a life and death situation. We have to kill all the monkeys. And again, it seems so bizarre to me, like just the first choice is to grab the gun and kill somebody. And
it's amazing how fear is always the justification for violence. And that's throughout history. We have to do this. It's been the justification for all things fear instead of courage, or it's always based in fear.
And I don't want to demonize them too much, but the first guy, the pastor, is an experienced squirrel and deer hunter. I can't help but think that he saw the chance to kill an exotic animal and took it. And I don't know about the woman saying, I would do anything to protect my children, and grabs a gun and kills the monkey. These are harmless animals for all intents and purposes. They don't.
Well, okay, to be fair, I don't want to, like, we have heard stories of chimpanzees attacking people.
These are not chimpanzees.
They're not. But yeah, I wonder, the fear is a bit extreme, but
Kristen Moore, director of wildlife for the Hattiesburg Zoo, said these primates native to Asia are typically herbivores and generally prefer running away over attacking.
Yeah.
And so I read the accounts too, and both said, oh, my son saw a blur out of the side of his eye, and so we thought it was a really big squirrel. And then we had to kill the monkey when I realized it was one of those. And then
and this is not information
Yeah.
that went out there to the media about, hey, these animals are usually more scared of you than you should be of them, and they're not going to attack you like chimpanzees. I think people might all have been thinking about the chimpanzee attacks. And
that's what I wish the news had said. The news should have said, these aren't like chimps. These aren't dangerous. Please steer clear. The first report was that they had a bunch of diseases. And so now they're thinking, oh, then now it's my duty to go out and kill these animals. Turned out they didn't have any diseases. That was all hogwash. And now it's just, I wish that they had exactly what you said, that they had this tempering effect, the media, when it comes to these things. Instead, they ginned everybody up and turned us into bloodthirsty. The third monkey was finally recovered a few days ago. He was recovered, and authorities mentioned it. He was captured safely and was not killed. The Mississippi Department of Wildlife Fisheries confirmed that all the escaped monkeys have now been recovered, so everybody can rest easy tonight. There are no little macaque monkeys who are between 17 and 20 pounds, not 35 to 40 pounds. God, that's the other thing that kills me. This guy shoots this animal. It's like, it was 35, 40 pounds. It was a big monkey. I was afraid. Come on, man. These rhesus macaques, these herbivores, are not wild chimpanzees. Chimpanzees and chimps kill monkeys and eat them. Chimps kill these animals and eat them. It really bugs me. So PETA, of course, had to say something, and other animal rights organizations, they are highlighting the plight of these animals in research, and they're calling for more transparency, including the release of the monkeys' veterinary records, which I think would have been great too. Why don't we have, would transparency have helped, or is the obfuscation of this industry, is that what kind of made people so afraid? Is that the unknown? They're so afraid of these monkeys because they don't know what is actually happening.
Yeah.
So
and it was the media's job to bring some
media fail.
Yeah. And they absolutely didn't. And that it's disturbing how we try to get the right information out there to the media, and they don't want to hear it. It's like there is some sort of agenda set on high, sent to them. We are going to be calm about this catastrophe, especially H5N1. We're going to make it seem very boring and not a big deal. But when a monkey escapes, we're going to sensationalize it all over.
So that people grab their guns like it's Jaws. Like this is Jaws. We all got to go out and kill the shark.
We want to normalize people to the idea that monkeys have to be killed, and that they're it, and that they're scary, and they're not like us, actually.
Yes.
And they're totally worthy of being killed.
Instead of knowing that they're just scared little animals that don't want to be killed. We've got a few more minutes left, and I just want to talk about one tiny little thing more. The Association of Primate Veterinarians, coincidentally, was having their 53rd annual workshop. The Association of Primate Veterinarians is an international organization of over 400 veterinarians and affiliates dedicated to promoting the science, medicine, management, and humane care of non-human primates, or what they call NHPs. Its members include veterinarians working in academia, pharmaceutical industries, government, and national primate research. So they're all about primate healthcare, but of course that intersects with the exploitation of monkeys in medical research. And so they in the workshop, they're all at this hotel. And my friend called me up and he said, "Hey, do you want to do a little activism?" I said, "Heck yeah, let's go." And so we snuck into the hotel and we had a letter that we slipped under the door of every hotel room in the place. So like 400 letters, because we assumed that most of the people who are at the workshop are going to be staying in the hotel. And I went ahead and I read the letter and I put Moby's track Monkey Master Monkey is actually Master Monkey is the name of the track, but I was wondering if Blue could read the letter that we put under the doors of the Association of Primate Veterinarians. Blue? Association of Primate Veterinarians, your oath is a duty to act. Veterinarian's oath. To use my scientific knowledge and skills for the benefit of society through the protection of animal health and welfare, the prevention and relief of animal suffering, the conservation of animal resources, the promotion of public health, and the advancement of medical knowledge. As specialists in primate care, you hold one of the most consequential professional responsibilities, the health of all primates in your care, common and endangered alike. The integrity of biomedical research and the protection of public health rest on the standards you enforce. You are not just caretakers of individual animals, you are gatekeepers at the intersection of animal welfare, scientific credibility, and biosecurity. Yet federal records and inspection reports reveal what has flourished under primate veterinary oversight. Illegal importation of wild-caught monkeys into U.S. laboratories, falsified paperwork in the primate pipeline, endangered long-tailed macaques funneled into experiments, repeated detections of tuberculosis, malaria, and herpes B virus, along with other serious pathogens including Salmonella, Yersinia, Campylobacter, and Shigella, often after transport to other facilities. Monkeys have been moved across state lines while sick or exposed, and basic safeguards have been ignored. Silence in the face of this record is an abdication of both oath and duty. When primate veterinarians fail to confront the realities of primate experimentation, its regulatory lapses, biosecurity risks, and documented animal suffering, they do more than neglect their oath. They perpetuate a system already straining under its own failures. USDA enforcement records confirm the pattern. Monkeys left untreated, abnormal behavior ignored, health checks skipped, and untrained staff left to manage suffering animals. Yet under the Animal Welfare Act, attending veterinarians are legally responsible for ensuring adequate veterinary care, supervising staff, and maintaining health records and practice. This means recognizing and addressing disease risks, ensuring quarantine and transport procedures both protect animals and people, and taking action when threats to welfare or public health emerge. Veterinarians are the final safeguard between primates, the staff who handle them, and the public whose health depends on disease control. Upholding your oath means acting on distress, red flag test results, and lapses in care, not yielding to institutional pressure or looking the other way. If your concerns are not being addressed, or you would like to make an anonymous report, please contact animal testing at PETA.org. I thought that was a well-worded one, so I just wanted to record it and put some music behind it to make it seem a little less boring for everybody. But they mentioned that rhesus macaques are also endangered species, and that's something I forget every time we talk about rhesus macaque, that they're endangered, and we're using them for these experiments, and we're trucking them across the country. So anyway, I thought that was. What do you think about it, Crystal? Do you think?
I think it's great. If there's any whistleblowers, will they whistleblow to PETA? I don't know, but maybe
we
could
go to an
more
organization
groups.
like Our Honor. There's an organization called Our Honor. I think they can
exactly, and maybe should Our Honor be doing that? Like, we are veterinarians. We're not some animal rights organization.
Mm-hmm. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to encourage more whistleblowers to reach out to Our Honor, and we have had one. And this New Yorker article that just came out by Ava Kaufman last week is an example of one of Our Honor's veterinary whistleblowers sharing her story. And this article is about the primates who escaped the Alpha Genesis lab in Yemassee, South Carolina. And it features Dr. Kathy Strickland, who worked there, and she was no animal rights person. She had very positive views of animal research from her teaching in veterinary school, and decided she needed a career change, and decided to give this job a chance, and discovered the horrors of Alpha Genesis. She talks about the climate control not working, some monkeys getting frostbite. She talks about the diarrhea from the stress, this macho attitude, people grabbing monkeys by the tail, the broken cages, the poor training. She said when she started the job, she needed a few days to adjust to the acrid smell of the grounds, feces shot through with ammonia, and the codes of behavior governing human-macaque interactions. She filed complaints, and she realized this is actually really bad. And she ended up talking to them, but after she filed complaints, she was fired. There's another veterinarian, Pete Otovic, a veterinarian who has worked at 8 primate research centers, told me he'd come to see his unhappy position as akin to that of an Olympic doctor whose goal is to keep someone working rather than to take them out of the game. And another person says, you can see this pattern play out at Alpha Genesis over the last 11 years, for which records are available. The company has been repeatedly cited by the USDA inspectors for escapes, insufficient food and water, processing injuries, preventable deaths, but fined only once, $12,600 penalty in 2017.
Crystal, where else sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Where else? But I want to get this important piece of information out, though. Like, where else can other veterinarians who are trying to blow the whistle or just share what they've seen, who can they reach out to besides PETA?
They can reach out to us, Our Honor. You can email info@ourhonor.org, and we can help you out and provide a network of support and decide what the best move is. So, yeah, I encourage people to reach out to us.
Wonderful. That's Vegan World Radio. I want to say thank you to everyone who's donated, anyone who's going to donate. Please donate $100. Get yourself. They'll send you a T-shirt. We'll send you a Vegan World Radio T-shirt. My name is Skyjack Morgan on YouTube. Crystal Heath is an Our Honor veterinarian and a whistleblower herself. So thank you all for joining us for Vegan World Radio. And thank you to our engineer, Blue. See you next week.
It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio, Vegan World Radio, no more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio, Vegan World Radio. It's time to live, it's time to grow. Vegan World Radio, Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a daunting planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio.